Welcome back to the Smite Console League. Finch here, joined by Anatoly. One more time, we've already had a day full of action. I mean, that was, what, almost a 2-hour set just to find that victory there on a 2-1.
Nox is doing a great job, being able to really bounce back in that last game, courtesy of the Sun Wukong Fire Giant steals.
Yeah.
Impressive stuff.
Had to do it to him, apparently, with the repeated steals. I think 3 steals, right, that we end up seeing from, so it really does end up hurting them on the European side. But we're in North America right now. Going to be looking at Flashpoint going up against Armada, and those two are deadlocked right now in the standings, 2-2 apiece. It's easiest to, if you get the win here, to put yourself in the best position to go.
Sure. And considering Armada have to face off up against Astral Authority in the next week,
right?
They need to 2-0 here, because if they 2-1, there's still a likely chance that Flashpoint can still win in the next one against Elevate 2-0, and where Armada loses to Astral 0-2, and then they would still just sneak right on by.
Yeah, but it's very difficult for Astral, because they're, or rather for Armada, their opponents next week consider are Astral, very likely not going to be able to win that one. We'll certainly see, but tough that they would drop. And much easier for Flashpoint against an elevated roster that has not won any games yet, at least not any sets, so they've had some struggles. So this one, it feels like a little bit more pressure on Armada, but we'll certainly end up seeing picks and bans. Flashpoint up against Armada, keeping it going on NA console this side. And
I definitely expect that Flashpoint should have a little bit of an advantage, considering that the Week 2 matchup, it did go in the favor of Flashpoint, finding the 2-1 victory. So if they can solidify their win here, they would put them in a good spot, knowing that they have the easier set next week.
And I have high expectations for this Flashpoint roster. I very much consider them the second team in North America, at least based off like name power on this squad. So certainly expecting them to be able to step it up. We'll see. Though Armada has been impressing me too, and we'll find a couple wins out there as well. So it's definitely not going to be free for either one of these teams. That's why these picks and bans are so important, as Neat and Sun Wukong prioritized early on. Maybe they don't want their Fire Giants taken away.
No,
so
definitely not. They must have been watching that last set.
Yeah, clearly.
Chernobog is selected. With Freya still on the table, those are your number 1 and number 2 go-tos. With Baron off the table, Erlang Shen, surprisingly for Armada, a guy that's been normally prioritized in that jungle role, but now with Berserker's Shield, could definitely be played in the solo very aggressively.
Curious that Erlang Shen and Ullr come out. I got to imagine Ullr will still be available a little bit later on, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see Freya and Athena get picked up here, but Artio going to be the selection. There's nothing wrong with that. Aurora on the SPL side has been putting in a ton of work for Splice on this Artio pick in the support role. We'll see if that's the call here as well. And they're going to pair it with the Freya.
And the whole goal of the Artio this game is to abuse the no CC immunity from both Erlang Shen and the Ullr, maybe for some early purification beads, or just have to make Armada second guess about some of their engagements.
Zeus going to be coming in next for Armada. We've seen a bit of a rise of these immobile mages, I would say. The Aquash, the Zeuses have all come to mind. We've been seeing some more Zhang Kui, so this certainly could be strong coming in from Armada. We'll see if they can make it work on their side in the mid lane.
And some of these bans as well, between the Kumbhakarna and the Raven from Armada, doing their homework a little bit, making sure that on the side of Flashpoint, that Jumpahhh is not going to be that aggressive, knowing how much he likes to blink into the action. Raven's one of those guys you don't want to deal with in the late game.
Absolutely. No reason not to take that one away, as the Kuzenbo going to come in for Armada. And I like the idea, right? Utilize that Reflect into the double auto attack comp tier from Flashpoint. He's also very disruptive, often can do fine in lane. Not a bad pick here from Armada at all.
The Watery Grave is going to disrupt a lot of the continuation damage out of the Freya, and that's the whole goal. Knockups are the best form of CC, and there's several of them coming from that one ability.
Cerberus and Thor are going to round it out. And I just want to make sure that I'm looking at all this correctly, that Athena neither picked nor banned.
Yes.
And
you are correct.
That's insane.
And with Zeus,
to the point where I would say incorrect. That's how good Athena is.
I would agree with you.
Yes.
You could even stick the Athena in the soul lane if you wanted to, pair that up with the Zeus. Athena could even roll in the jungle if you wanted to. A lot of flexibility on that goddess.
This Chaac can go 12, 0, and 12. And I would rather it have been an Athena.
Sure.
I will say that right now at the beginning of the game. However it goes for Jarman over there. I don't know. It's a wild world we live in, totally, but Flashpoint, they don't need it. They've got a lot of pretty strong abilities going their way anyway. They've got the global presence coming out from Crimson, Jumpahhh, semi-global as well with his own ultimate. They all have plenty of impact across the map even without it. And then Koiz can certainly still be the facilitating support for them with that Stygian Torment. So they still have very good tools.
I'm a little surprised that it's keegsmate playing the Freya as opposed to the Chernobog, considering that Freya has a lot of good lane clear. And if you're not going to be looking for the lane clear in the dual lane, you might as well just leave it in the mid lane, considering you're going to get more experience at the start. You'll hit level 5 first, and you could even look for some solo plays against an immobile Zeus that can't get away from your Valkyrie's discretion damage.
It's a good point. Keegs could certainly have some potential to cause problems for Teep, but maybe they're worried about the Zeus having the ability to detonate when she's in the air. I don't know. I'm with you totally. I feel like you like the Freya in the middle lane.
It's back and forth. I would agree that if Teep could find 3 stacks onto Crimson's Freya, it would have been a little bit tricky, but either way, so far, actually getting level 2 first. After getting the first wave, Fatal Ghost and Zirxy didn't really get much afterwards in terms of the experience, as Koiz and keegsmate hit level 2 first, surprisingly.
And both of our supports have, it looks like, the upgraded relics right away as well. We've got the shell already topped off and Horrific Emblem ready to rock.
You know what it was? The fact of the matter was, considering Flashpoint got their purple buff first, while Armada went back to their purple buff, as they approached back to the lane, they missed that one crucial minion to give them that level 2 marker.
Sometimes those small markers can be the problem, as Delnyy in a little bit of trouble here in the solo lane, but he lands the root. That's enough to create space away from Jarman. And this is something Chaac does, by the way.
Sure.
I know I gave the Chaac a bit of a hard time, but he definitely is able to clear very safely in lane. And up against someone who has low pressure, he can feel pretty annoying, especially early on.
And Delnyy knows he's in a losing matchup, so he just picks up the Guardian's Blessing. He's going to try to think about more mid to late game style by making sure that he's going to have that gold per 5 just to out-farm Jarman, because as a level 3 Artio, you can't out-clear the Chaac at this point in the game.
No, and Delny's right. You know, you're going to be very happy you have an Artio, I feel like, in those mid-fights. Now, the situation this can be a problem is if Jarman's able to find a significant lead, and he makes up for the fact that he doesn't have a ton of presence in the fights by just doing way too much damage, by, like, being a legitimate other damage dealer for this team, coming in with an experience lead. We'll see if that works out for Jarman.
Well, so far so good, I'd say, for Flashpoint's duo lane. Not really in too much trouble, considering when a team drafts an Ullr, they want to play aggressive. And Zirxy's playing the Kuzenbo could set that aggression up. However, still holding on to their purple buffs. Nothing to really worry about. A little bit of action on the left, but even more action on the right.
2-man stun comes down from Delnyy. The hammer comes through as well. Cripple field for the help, but it's Crimson who's somewhat all the way over here on the right-hand side that finds first blood. Jarman ends up falling, and Flashpoint on the board already.
Great rotation out of Crimson. Despite even not being level 5, he knew there was going to be that play that needed to be rotated on. This is kind of the mental downfall of certain players. Hold that thought, though. Fatal Ghost!
A ton of damage, but Zirxy does find the push on the Koiz. I think Fatal Ghost might have made it down anyway. In fact, he's looking for return damage onto the Cerberus over here on the dual lane side. So you have to be careful, no mana. And looks like Crimson might be on his way, dashing in with the ultimate, dashing into the tower line. He finds the root, gets pushed back in. Zirxy with the turnaround, puts Koiz down.
Koiz getting a little too ambitious there, wanting to be in position to drop the horrific emblem relic that he picked up at level 1. Don't fault him for that, but by not having the jump, he was the sacrificial lamb. As soon as Crimson goes in for the dash, he puts himself in a great position to root Fatal Ghost in place, but good body blocks from Zirxy was going to prevent the kill. And I wanted to touch on the mentality from Jarman earlier, looking for that rotational play. When you have a little bit of a lead in the laning phase of the solo lane, you want to generally transition that to some blue buff invades, but then that could also fall to you because Flashpoint were anticipating that kind of style. Great rotation from Crimson, getting that first blood, and puts himself in a good spot against the mage MitchTeep.
Crimson's had great impact around the map now. He was on the right-hand side to help out and find first blood. Went over to Duo to very nearly set up a kill there as well. But he doesn't find that one, and he's actually a little bit behind MitchTeep, who's just been kind of able to stay in lane, farm, go grab these busts on timers. So Crimson's made good rotations, but it might have hurt him in his direct matchup a bit.
I think the second rotation was a little bit too ambitious. It was under the tier 1 tower. It's not as if Armada were the ones aggressing beyond that imaginary horizontal line. So instead, losing a lot of experience now, it's going to be a win for the level 12 race to MitchTeep ever so slightly.
Joey showing some presence in middle lane, trying to put the scare into Crimson, who didn't have much mana, but beads were held on to. He wasn't under that much duress. They're going to look into the jungle, but not going to find much there on the side of Armada. So instead, Jarman can try and go for the blue buff invade, but look who's nearby. Jump in the jungle. He goes up into the air, and Jarman has to try and leave.
Well, he just wants to do it to steal away the small blue minions. And instead, Jumpahhh goes to mid, tries to go onto MitchTeep, does force out the purification beads.
curious. Well, now the blue buff will certainly be invaded. Ryan Jarman's like, oh, okay. I thought maybe I was a little bit too far forward, but it seems like I'm okay. And now they can keep up their pressure here up against Delnyy.
And I like the play originally from Jarman, just to steal away the small minions and immediately run away. But the problem was Jarman used his ultimate to harass Delnyy before even looking for that blue buff invade, and not having CC immunity. That means you're totally disrespecting the Thor rotation and his Berserker Barrage.
Teep drops down the ultimate at his feet, but it's just not enough. Jumpahhh able to track him down the back end and find the kill. Jumpahhh in a little bit of trouble, though, as the Nene Kappa's going to come looking for him a little bit, but now it's Zirxy trapped between four with no mana available. Shell comes out as well, but keegsmate over the top has the damage, finds Zirxy, and Fatal Ghost gets Jumpahhh on the back end.
Jumpahhh a little too far forward, gets held of Aerodon, and a good return kill, making it at least a 2-for-1. MitchTeep has revived, but he's nowhere near the action quite yet. A 2v2 on the left as Joey Linn wants to back. His speed buff is available. keegsmate not going to allow that to happen.
Joey Linn is going to drop down the ultimate, but Keegs is able to very cleanly put out damage around it. Luckily, the heal keeps Joey Linn just barely alive, and Keegs can't find the kill, but he makes it back out, but did have to use his beat.
Needed like one more basic attack from Koiz. One more ranged archer volley would have sealed the fate from Joey Linn, but still going to force him to back, make him waste a lot of time. Now his purification bead is not available for 135 seconds. Jumpahhh needs to capitalize on that.
We'll certainly see. So far, Jumpahh's felt a little bit more like the counter-initiator for his team. He had a chance to maybe go in and help out Ryan Jarman, but chose to come to mid instead. So this is certainly an opportunity where Jumpahhh can come over and try and help out. We'll see what the idea is, though, from him. Though I haven't seen that much yet from the Thor.
Not going to see too much out of Delnyy yet in the laning phase either, until he finishes off the Breastplate of Valor. He finishes off the evolution of that Guardian's Blessing, whereas Jarman's still going to be that bully that Chaacs are known to be, invading the blue buff for the 3rd time in a row, the 2nd successful one.
But you talked about it early on, right? We wanted to see a bit of aggression from this draft from Armada. They've got the Ullr, which does have a nice lead over Keegs over there in the duo lane. They've got this Kuzenbo, who feels like wants to be aggressive. Certainly this Chaac does as well, and he's done that all game long. So far, they've played into that identity, but maybe even a little bit more.
They certainly can play aggressive as long as they can continue some of the side lane pressure. Maybe bait out some globals, as Jumpahhh is thinking about doing something right next to that purple buff, but no one really in position to get ganked on quite yet. Just trying to bait that one out. And if you can bait out the Anvil of Dawn and reset, all of a sudden this Ullr that has a little bit of a lead can start up Gold Furies, but by having physical power on the Transcendence and no lifesteal without Devil Gloves, makes it even trickier to start up Gold Furies.
Not going to be nearly easy as Crimson and Matt Koiz go for the mid-Harpies, and they should be A-okay here. So we're saying that they have a good chance to go for this, you know, this early aggression. But is it necessarily something that's insistent upon as Jumpahhh dunks down on the Joey Linn? It's just too much damage. MitchTeep cannot keep him alive. And now Matt Koiz comes in with the Stygian Torment, and Crimson's right there for the follow-up easy 2 kills for Flashpoint.
The recognition that the beads were still not available. I believe there were 35 seconds remaining for Joey Linn's beads. And hey, he got a 2-for-1 on the price of that Anvil of Dawn, even forcing the beads from MitchTeep, which allow the continuation. Matt Koiz with the Stygian Torment, throwing MitchTeep back into the fire.
They weren't able to find anything more on the back end of that, but a nice fight there from Flashpoint, this time making use of those globals relatively well to catch out the unsuspecting Armada. Now it's Armada who are a bit on the back foot. Flashpoint recognized an opportunity and slowed them down. But this is what I was trying to allude to, right, Tolly? It's not as if this Armada squad's going to vanish if this goes to mid-late and it's even or anything like that. So yes, you want to try and be aggressive early with these picks, but, I mean, do they have to?
Yes, they have to. The late game of keegsmate and Crimson on the Chernobog is too scary. Jumpahhh going to finally confirm Delny's blue buff for the 2nd time this game. Nice double stun. Going to allow Delnyy even more pressure onto Joey Linn. Jarman tries to disrupt that beam for an ultimate. No real use there, but you were mentioning how Armada have to be aggressive because of this late game keegsmate, late game Crimson. Team fighting wise, Delnyy is going to be more of an impact than Ryan Jarman will, so if there's not a Gold Fury within the next 2 minutes for Armada, I'm going to have to worry about their progress towards that late stage.
Jumpahh's grabbing those back Harpies, but he's near enough where he could ult in if he feels the need. Joey Linn is here with Ryan Jarman. They land the pin, but a two-man stun means that Delny's not even in too much trouble. He'll drop the cripple field, but there's Jumpahhh coming in over the top. Joey Linn now has started running for the hills as they've got the 2v1 on Jarman.
Jarman very low. He doesn't really have his ultimate available, respecting Zirxy's rotation, but Koiz on the backhand side, not really in a position to throw anybody back in, so it's going to be a little bit of a wash. Trading out ulti for ulti, even getting the bees yet again for Joey Linn.
And that's where that information from Koiz comes in, right? Zirxy is a little bit ahead of me. Maybe slow it down a bit. We saw Delnyy let up off the gas and allow Ryan Jarman to make it back towards the tier 1 tower, but that's a good job responding to the aggression in lane. Jumpahhh was nearby. If they needed him, as soon as the call came out from Delnyy, he dunked right back in and kept his solo going.
Interesting book of thought from keegsmate in the dual lane. Normally this is more of a mid item that you want to pick up because there's more opportunities to look for stacking, but instead going to pick that one up, trying to match the magical power the same way Fatal Ghost is stacking that physical on the Transcendence.
Ryan Jarman's been very comfortable dropping the storm calls over here in lane. And I suppose there's not really too big of an issue with it, you know, trying to make sure he maintains that lane pressure, but there has been a couple times where he hasn't had it for the skirmish right afterwards because he used it in lane for poke.
And the thing is, you got to use your ultimate if you're Chaac against Jumpahhh's Berserker Barrage, not the Artio's channeled beam. Breastplate of Valor and Shoes of Focus means that beam is coming up way more often than Jumpahhh's Berserker Barrage, especially when there could be some of these side lane ganks. That's the only way you're going to disrupt the Berserker Barrage and keep yourself alive.
It'd definitely be helpful next time Jumpahhh shows some presence over there in the dual lane. But we were talking about keegsmate picking up this Book of Thoth, and doesn't that kind of go along what you're saying, right? They want this Freya to be like a mid-late game powerhouse. They're not worried about fighting right now from this Freya if she doesn't want to come on in. Has plenty of time to get stacked up and make sure there's no mana concerns. They are relying on Keegs to start rotating into these fights later on and just being a powerhouse.
It leads me to believe that he's going to pick up more books to synergize with that passive,
sure.
Converting some of your mana to magical power. So I'm thinking Polynomicon potentially. I'm thinking maybe Book of the Dead to keep himself alive in some of these skirmishes.
Maybe so. Book of the Dead really works so well with Book of Thoth, so I wouldn't be surprised if we see it, as Armada are at least showing some presence around the Gold Fury, and more than presence now as they pull it in. Keegs is nearby, so is Jumpahhh, who goes up into the air. They drop down the Lightning Storm, so Armada are all in on grabbing this Gold Fury, and they certainly will. Jumpahhh finds no one with the dunk back down. Linn finds a taunt, and Keegs is the first one to fall.
Oh, but Koiz responds, taking out Joey Linn in a little 3-on-3 rather. Koiz gets off the slope, pulls Zirxy back in, and it's Jumpahhh trying to clean up.
Zirxy's trying to juke around, reposition, and get that dash back off cooldown, but it won't come in time. Crimson finds another kill. That makes it 2 for 1 in Flashpoint's favor, but Armada get the Gold Fury.
So at the 10-minute mark, I asked the Armada boys that they need to do the Gold Fury within the next 2 minutes. They got it after 3, but better late than never. And on top of that, they shut down keegsmate. Killing him also allows Fatal Ghost to get more experience under his own belt, separating that gap, trying to get that scaling on some of his abilities.
Another nice fight coming out for Flashpoint. That's twice where they've been able to find an answer to Armada's aggression. The first time was that dunk in from Jumpahhh that happened around the middle lane, and with Crimson as the follow-up, where they were the ones that could be the aggressors to slow Armada down. Now around the Gold Fury, they do find a couple kills in the back end to try and punish. Armada are playing this to the draft, but maybe not quite enough. And Flashpoint can feel very, very comfortable with where they are right now, considering the current state of the game.
That's right. Despite getting the Gold Fury, it's Flashpoint that have more gold under their pockets and more experience simply because of the kill counts and what they were able to get after the fact. And which is funny considering Armada stole 2 blue buffs consistently in about the 4 and 6 minute mark, whereas Flashpoint haven't really looked for too many invades. They were just getting the lanes instead. And most of it comes down to Crimson. That was actually about half a level behind from level 5.5 to level 6 against MitchTeep. But now he's a full 2 levels ahead because of all these kills.
Yeah, no longer is he looking up at MitchTeep in that middle lane. Now it's Armada that have to come up with an answer to this Chernobog, as Delnyy might have baited a little bit on the right-hand side. Crimson comes in, but it's Jumpahhh who finds the dunk one more time, but not the wall. Fatal Ghost, though, finds Keegs in the solo kill over in duo lane.
Just having too many items to handle. Zirxy's going to zone away with that Watery Grave. And talking about that solo kill, I mean, just look at the itemization. Fatal Ghost with red buff, having Crusher after Transcendence already fully evolved. Demonic Grip wasn't fully upgraded quite yet. Keegsmate was only sitting at tier 2 at the moment.
Well, Crimson's going to get pushed back into the tower line. We talked about how important he is as he takes some tower shots. Joey Linn, though, finds the pin. Up into the air goes the Chernobog, but where can he land to try and find safety as Shell keeps Joey Linn just barely alive. He goes towards the left, towards MitchTeep, who drops down the ultimate and burns him out.
And tier 2 tower on the left side is getting destroyed because it's going to be Fatal Ghost, still left unchecked.
And I love this. As the Ullr player, what he wants is to see what's happening on the right-hand side. If he's in this 1v1 with no chance of repercussion, he can go aggressive against the likes of the Freya. It looked like Keegs either didn't have the ultimate or didn't use it, didn't use Aegis in that last fight either. He found a nice, easy solo kill, and the tier 1 and the tier 2, a huge win for Armada.
And a 3-level lead now, transitioning this over to the tier 1 tower to get another 500 gold. This is the way you build the lead for Armada. They were behind about 900 gold, now up 2,100 gold, about a 3,000 gold swing in the past 3 minutes.
A nice big playback from Armada, really largely on the back of Fatal Ghost on the left-hand side. And a good job staying even, I would say, in this right side fight that initially felt like was getting started by Delnyy, Jumpahhh, and Crimson. Delnyy kind of baits into Crimson's there to follow up, but it's Jumpahhh that kind of really aggresses him with his own ultimate. And they don't find a ton off the back end. It really just kind of opens up the door for Keegsmate to fall prey to Fatal Ghost.
And Keegsmate, keep in mind, he's been playing PC in the mid lane for quite some time, now transitioning back into the Hunter for console. A little bit of a different style than what he's used to, so Fatal Ghost able to really take advantage.
But now a chance for an answer back from Flashpoint. Pyromancer is certainly theirs. No one from Armada was around to defend, so a nice, easy objective for them. But at this point, it just feels like a back and forth between these two teams, relatively evenly matched. But we've already said, back and forth favors Flashpoint.
Yes, absolutely, because the late game, Keegsmate, despite falling earlier in the game and giving up some towers, well, there's still plenty of time to fight into this. He's level 15, he has demonic grip, going for another ring, trying to get some more mobility online, some extra attack speed, whereas Fatal Ghost going for the Heartseeker. Great pickup for a lot of these ability hunters, getting extra mana, making sure that his next ability is going to be hitting a little bit harder. This is a general good snowball build out of Fatal Ghost.
It should be able to put him into a good spot. And right about now is when he wants to be hitting that power spike before this Freya is really 100% online and ready to rock and roll. So he's got some room as Gold Fury comes back up. And Armada should be all over this. Try and find a pick, force them into a fight, and get the most out of Fatal Ghost.
That's right. Whether you force a fight, whether you bait out some ultimates from Jumpahhh and Crimson, those global pressures can allow you to go for round 2. It has to be a slow, methodical poke and prodding out of Armada here.
And watch where MitchTeep chooses to use the ultimate. We've seen him drop it on the objective for secure. We've seen him drop in the middle of the fights. That's going to show you where Armada's heads really are in terms of what they want the most out of this fight.
Wrapping around the backhand side, keep an eye on Jumpahhh. He's looking to get somebody out of position. Fatal Ghost is actually going to be a little out of position, forced to jump away after the beads.
Yeah, it's Delnyy that was the initial target, but I don't know how much burn they have for this tanky Artio at this point as Ryan, Jarman, and Delnyy trade blows. Fatal Ghost can't quite find the axe until we bounce back towards parity. So far, all these frontliners are A-okay.
That's true for the moment. Somebody needs to drop a ward behind the Gold Fury because Jumpahhh is going to be looking for a play there, whether it's the global Anvil of Dawn or just setting up with Tectonic Rift. Because if you wrap around behind this Gold Fury, you can cut off the escape path and allow a pincer maneuver from Flashpoint.
Jumpahhh goes up into the air. He's looking to try and follow back up on the Fatal Ghost and on the Zirxy. A big dunk. MitchTeep drops the ultimate more towards the Gold Fury. Doesn't find much at all. And now it's Ryan Jarman who's in some trouble, but Zirxy finds Delnyy, no problem.
No problem for that side, but Keegsmate takes out Jarman. Good stun onto Zirxy. Will reflect some of the shells. Matt Koiz going to slow down Zirxy with that ghastly breath. It's good choke point for MitchTeep as he blows the trucker horn right on top of Matt Koiz.
That makes it 2 for 1 in Armada's favor so far, with 4 members relatively healthy. Not really, to be honest. They're all below about half except for MitchTeep. They might not feel comfortable re-aggressing, and even though it was 2 for 1, they win the fight. How much do they really get if they don't feel comfortable going for gold?
Well, the thing is, they got a lot of relics out of Armada. There was a lot of focus fire onto Fatal Ghost. Delnyy originally forced the beads from Fatal Ghost, and then after about 20 seconds or so, Jumpahhh commits to Fatal Ghost because of the Gnosis C immunity, but then Aegis bought him enough time to survive, and that also allowed more peels. Joey Linn was able to get off the taunt. Zirxy buying plenty of time and baiting himself out like a juicy piece of turtle to MitchTeep to capitalize on.
And we talked a little bit about, or at least I certainly highlighted that I wanted to follow where MitchTeep would drop his ultimate in the fight, because that was going to show what the priority was from Armada, and it looked really more like space control than damage or confirm or anything like that, at least from the ultimate. Armada had to make sure they are getting way more, I would say, out of that lightning storm from MitchTeep.
I agree, because they are on a ticking time bomb, honestly. Flashpoint's late game, we keep harping on it, but we're getting closer and closer to it. In about 5-10 minutes or so, keegsmate is going to be that level 20 marker, and he's going to have about 5 to 6 items complete, already finishing off that hasten ring, so he's going to be just zooming around on one target.
And Gold Fury not able to be taken down by Armada, so really, essentially just a 1-kill advantage was all they got off that last engagement. As we go to take 2, Flashpoint now here in relevant numbers. They've got Keegs and Jump over in the dual lane getting farmed back up, and Armada recognizing it, sending a little bit of presence over that way.
They understood the weakness of that last engagement was allowing Jumpahhh behind the Gold Fury side. Zirxy now is going to pull in Delnyy. Here goes the Lightning Storm, and there goes Delny's life.
But one more time, that was good. They got Delnyy out, but Lightning Storm for a very low health tank. We'll see if that's enough value. A Storm Call lands on the 2. Matt Koiz responds with an ultimate of his own, but Jumpahh's already been removed. Matt Koiz pinned him against the wall, and Joey Linn's there with a little bit of help from Teep, and they find one more. 3 for 0. Armada come out pretty handily on top, and the Gold Fury is there.
Amazing body blocks coming from the boys out of Armada. They get 10 kills right under their belt. They're going for the second Gold Fury. Meanwhile, Jarman casually trying to keep keegsmate preoccupied, even forcing out that Valkyrie's discretion just to get away from the slows.
He might be in some serious trouble here. Crimson shows up and just barely keeps keegsmate alive. A great rotation over from the Hunter to try and make sure he ends up staying alive. And now Armada can turn their attention right towards the Fire Giant, because why not? The only 2 members of Flashpoint who are alive just showed face in duo.
That's true, and you don't have to worry about Living Nightmare now as well. Armada, this is the way you would win the Smite game. Going for objectives, calculating these little rotations and how long it would take for the defense. It's not the similar fashion as opposed to the noxious Cyclone GG game we just saw.
And so one more time, the thread I followed in the fight was, what does MitchTeep do with that ultimate? And he used it to make sure they confirmed the kill into Delnyy, which is value. I was worried it might not be enough, but it absolutely worked. Without Delnyy, Flashpoint sort of scattered. They didn't have that sort of anchor in their fight to absorb abilities, to be the front line, and that was enough. Clearing out the Artio set it up for the rest of the fight.
Not only do you lose a lot of utility from the Artio with the control between the root, the stun, the cripple minefield, but based off of his build, you're losing a lot of penetration between the Void Stone and the Stone of Binding.
And without having all that extra utility there to help Flashpoint, ended up kind of lost about where exactly to go in the fight. Armada capitalized perfectly. They still have an opportunity. Look, keegsmate is not in the perfect position to start really putting in the damage yet. Doesn't have a ton of pen there online, aside from maybe like Demonic Grip passive helping him out. So they still have an opportunity, do Armada, to get the most out of their composition. And right now they're looking for a tier 2 tower, and right appears to be the call.
That's right. They need those 2 towers to get an extra 3,000 gold, which would extend their lead to about 7,000 total. Experience is not really too relevant considering that Flashpoint are nearing that level 20 marker as well. I don't expect Armada to go for Phoenixes quite yet, although having MitchTeep playing the Zeus, that's a lot of zoning and space control you have, which could easily dissect a team fight into 2 different places. So if any of the frontliners at a Flashpoint get caught a little too far north, I don't think they can go back down south.
We'll see exactly how MitchTeep uses it. Continue to follow along with his use of the ultimate, as so far he's been instrumental in whether the fight is a success or not. Tier 2 tower in mid is now the call, as Armada have already grabbed one in solo. A little bit more gold they'll grab. Delnyy nearby, but this looks more like a show than actual defense. Or maybe not. Delnyy blinks in, drops the stun and the cripple field, but MitchTeep gonna cut the fight in half with the Lightning Storm. Tier 2 tower goes to Armada.
By using the ultimate, keegsmate no longer with that Valkyrie's discretion. Delnyy went in just to force the beats out of Fatal Ghost, but there was no real follow-up. Jumpahhh still holding on to his ultimate for good reason.
Whoa!
Going in, Joey Linn setting everyone up.
Big 9 turns blessing from Joey Linn, sets up MitchTeep and the fadeaway pin, looking like Kobe Bryant finding the shots. Now it's the Phoenix in the mid lane, that's the target. A big wall comes out from Jumpahhh, but Armada undeterred. The Firebird comes down, and Armada are ready to roll.
They got the middle Phoenix. The question is, what do they want to do? It's a 5-on-3. They knock up Delnyy, they pin him against the wall, and they take out the bear, leaving it at a 5-on-2.
It's just too much damage from MitchTeep, man. There's no way they can hang. In fact, Armada want to try and take the game right here. Jumpahhh's low and controlled on the backside. Aegis is nice. It keeps him alive, and keegsmate finds Fatal Ghost, but MitchTeep answers back. Titan now down well below half, and they only need a little bit more damage coming out from this mid lane. Zeus, can they focus it? And they can. Armada take game 1 from Flashpoint.
One down, one more to go. Armada, if they can secure this next victory, Finch, they're guaranteed that #2 seed, no matter what happens in week 6.
This is such a big game for Armada. They absolutely need it. Because again, next week they're going up against Astral. It will not be easy to acquire more points there. They need this set right here, right now, and 2-0 would really be ideal.
Because even if they win 2-1, there's still a small chance that Flashpoint could squeeze on by with a 2-0 victory over Elevate, so long as that Astral 2-0 Armada.
Well, who was your MVP from game 1? I'm thinking MitchTeep, man. That damage was a lot, but you can say the same thing I could say for Fatal Ghost. Him finding the solo kill over in duo and the 2 towers was so key to keep them relevant in that mid game.
I think, like, low-key, that's what won them the game. Being able to get the towers, being able to get that second Gold Fury. Their positioning was good. Zirxy had good zone control as well, being just a nuisance on the Kuzenbo.
It was absolutely a nightmare for them. Despite really Flashpoint, I think, playing relatively well throughout that early to mid game, it was just a couple points, like you said, the Gold Fury fights where Delnyy gets caught out. That one really ends up hurting them. And on the back of that, they were able to go get the Fire Giant, maybe too hard of a commit over to the dual lane to make sure that they were able to keep Teep alive, or not Teep alive, but Keegs, and it got away from them.
I almost think that they should have swapped the Freya and the Chernobog. Allow keegsmate to play the Chernobog so that he can make those rotations happen, and then just allow your mid player to have Freya and try to abuse the Zeus.
Sounds like, though, our MVP was a tie between MitchTeep and Fatal Ghost, which I think is pretty good. In the actual team fights, Teep was the one that was more relevant, but I think Fatal Ghost was the one that kept them more in the game with the way that he was able to keep down Keegs over in duo.
This was a great little bait that Zirxy did, allowing MitchTeep to just blow up Mad Koiz around this Gold Fury. This was heading towards that second Gold Fury, and then being able to close out game #1 in pretty short fashion.
Absolutely. It didn't take really as long as I would have thought, but this is about when they would have needed to end, right? I would say that this comp maybe had another 5 minutes or so because of how far out and ahead they were in terms of gold, where they could really get the most out of it. Any longer, and then you start having Chernobog Freya to worry about.
That's right. Keegsmate on the Freya, Crimson on the Chernobog. You don't want to deal with that late game shenanigans. And unfortunately for Keegsmate, he was only about 4.5 items deep. Didn't get that late game Freya presence that his team needed of him.